Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the From Busy to Rich podcast, where we help financial advisors grow their businesses beyond the products they sell and the assets they manage to increase profitability, reclaim their time by providing strategies and insights that will not only change your life, but practice. With me, as always, your host, Wes Young. Wes, it's great to see you.
Good to see you, Justin.
Now, I know we had a chance to dialogue and prep for this, and you had this really great quote that built off a lot of the conversation that we were having last week with Alicia when she was on. And if you didn't get a chance, those of you listening to hear that one, highly encourage you to go back and listen to that. You will not be disappointed. But we're talking about design versus default and how advisors can really position that changes the not just the feel for them and what their practice, but what that looks like with the people that they're serving. And then you had this quote that really brought up some great conversation on our end and really the genesis of what today's topic is. So I thought a good place to start is why don't you kick it off with a quote, and then we'll just start diving into some of those questions.
You bet. Yeah. So one of my favorite quotes up there says, financial health is a lot like physical health. It's not a place you arrive at, but rather a condition you continually pursue. So that embedded in that is so much to do with the way we do this work, the way we do our process, the way we structure our team, the way we build around a client on the onboarding process, as well as on the ongoing annual engagement. Because I truly believe there's never been something that was more true than that quote.
Yeah, it really brings to light, some misconceptions. And I guess for you, it's a good starting question. And one of those that came up is, what's the biggest misconception you would say that people have, especially when advisors are coaching clients and how we can coach advisors to help that as part of what we're doing, the point of this podcast. What's the biggest misconception people have about achieving what they would call financial security?
Yeah. Well, I think in its infancy phase, which a lot of people never grow out of this phase, by the way, no matter how much money they make, is people have an underlying belief, whether they inherited it or from family or maybe just culture, or maybe just they've never really thought it through. But it's this idea that to break through financially, to really at least reach that place of financial security, or even the words you could use different words, but financial freedom, I just need to make a little more money. When I do, then I will be. And it's a very much a destination mentality. And the issue with that is Jim Rohn used to say that more money makes you more of what you already are. And if you are a freak in your mind when it comes to money, and you think money is the source of the security, more is never going to solve that freak nature of you. It just won't, because you're going to continue to be a freak at 100,000, just like you were at 50,000 and 200,000. And because that's not what it's about. It's not a place you arrive at. The idea of being in good financial condition involves having financial peace. And you can have peace at varying levels. Now, it doesn't also mean that more is bad. I have objectives every single year for our team and for us that we think more, because we can do a whole lot more in the areas we want to pursue. But more in and of itself, if you believe that just when you reach a dollar amount or some number, that all of a sudden that's going to bring you total and complete financial peace, I can just promise you, observing tons and tons of people without working on some other areas, it's just never going to happen. It's like thinking I'm going to be in optimal shape by, hey, I went to the gym, but I also, drank a liter of Dr. Pepper and ate 3 cakes and ice cream was my diet going in. You're focusing on an aspect. Like, more can be helpful to getting to the place being in financial health, but it's always also a moving target, Justin, because you're a handful of decisions away from moving up or down the ladder of surviving, stabilizing, or thriving when it comes to the condition of financial health.
Yeah, that reminds me a lot about the book that we read, and we've talked about it before, The Gap and the Gain. Right? Those things that never go away, or some of our mindset and change. When I just make X, I'll be good. I'll be solid.
Yeah.
You use the example of your Blockbuster days, right? Like,
yeah,
it's one more dollar.
Yeah. No, it was really where it came to light for me, honestly. Is I remember I was 15 years old. And, I was working at Blockbuster Video, putting the tapes, literal tapes, back on the shelf. And For those of you who may not know, tapes were things we used to watch movies on. And I remember I made $4.25 an hour because that was the minimum wage at the time. And I remember having this thought. I thought, man, when I'm making another dollar an hour, I'm going to be so rich. I thought I'm going to have all this extra money. And I remember like looking at people that were two or three income levels above me and thinking, how do these people have financial problems? They should be throwing a party. They make so much more money than I do. And the funny thing, which is likely happened to you if you've lived any amount of life, is years later I was making a lot more money. And the issue was the gap between where I was and where I wanted to be didn't go away. And more money didn't solve it. And in fact, I think it got bigger and more complicated. And I think this is what's fundamental. And we talk about this in different facets, but it's so true is that all of us have a gap between where we are and where we want to be, between the life we're living and the unlived life within us. And that gap never goes away. It just moves. And that is not a bad thing. So like here's what oftentimes I think when we start talking about money and we talk about that there's never like you're not going to reach a number where all of a sudden you're satisfied. This is not about the absence of ambition. Because I don't think you can be satisfied without a big ambition, without a desire. And it doesn't always have to be more money, but money can be a part of those things, and that's not bad. But it's the gap between that's where faith lives. Faith is the substance of things we're hoping for, the evidence of things we've not yet seen, and it's what gives us energy to make things better, to do hard things today, to not trade what we want ultimately for just something we can have immediately. It's so it gives us part of the fuel we need to actually get excited. It's where anticipation lives. So I don't think like if you're listening and you're going, oh, you're just going to tell me I need to go and be a pauper and not focus on. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is if you believe right now that a little more money is going to make you at peace financially or in optimal financial health, that is never going to happen. You can have peace and you can still want more, have goals of getting more. I would just say financial health, like physical health, again, not a place you arrive at. It's a condition you pursue. And throughout your life, there's going to be a multitude of things that your taste will change. The things that desires that you have will ebb and flow and come and go. And the amount of money that you want to do things or need to do things is going to move around as well. So I just think it's to think that it's a finished product that I will reach a perfect amount of money that I no longer have. I'm in optimal financial health. There's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah. And you said a couple of things I think lead into this next question really well, and that's as you evolve and things change and your relationship with money as a whole changes. One of the things that you'd have to do is recognize that a lot of this and the changes that we're talking about aren't immediate. Or like going to the gym. You can go to the gym day one, you go look in the mirror, you're probably going to be disappointed if you're expecting something
Yeah.
dramatic, different than when you went there the first time. If that was the case, we would all be in amazing shape. If
Yeah.
I could eat terribly and do nothing 364 days and then I just had to go once a year for like 8 hours, I could grind that out happily every year. But that's unfortunately not the way it works.
Yeah. You
And not
sure?
yeah, yeah. Not to mention the older I get, even what I do has to evolve and change. So I guess the two-part question would be, how do you coach from a client coaching side people to build financial discipline when the results aren't immediately visible? And then what are the things as an advisor that you can coach to other advisors of how they can have a process that helps people stay in the fight moving forward towards whatever that vision or goal is?
Yeah, I think to set it up, there's a definition that exists out there, and I'm not saying this is perfect, but it's pretty good about what is financial health. And here's the definition. It says financial health is a state of being able to meet your current financial obligations while building resilience for the future needs and unexpected challenges, all without chronic stress about money.
Hmm.
And the way we would say it is that we've got these desires for our future. And so having a current amount of money to meet just your current obligations is great. Like that's important. We always say you need to create more money than you're consuming. Otherwise, you're not in financial health. but also to meet your future obligations. And I would add in there desires, your future desires, the things that you care about reaching. Um, is also a big part. Like, what are you doing for that? Because a lot of people are like, "Well, I've got enough for today, and shouldn't I just be satisfied with that?" And I would say no, because it's not an ambitious life. You know, there's not there's you also have tomorrow, and you have things, and it's not that you worry about those things. That's where like having the chronic stress about, oh, I've got to have tomorrow. And there's ways to combat that we'll talk about that. And then not just things that you want in the future, but also the unexpected, inevitable challenges that will pop up that you didn't see coming that are there. It's like, for some people, Christmas is a surprise every year. They're like, I don't know why we spend so much money in December. Well, because every year Christmas comes and you spend a lot of money in December. So there are some things you can like plan for, understand, and then there's things that'll just happen. Life stuff happens. And so I think in this definition, financial health, the state of being able to meet your current financial obligations while building resilience for the future needs and unexpected challenges, all without chronic stress about money, is a good one in some regards. I also think it adds in that all without chronic stress about money. Here's what I know, yes, and because we do a lot of planning with advisors and with individuals, is that when we're talking about, we've done episodes on this, the beautiful savage framework. Like we love the term. Being a beautiful savage is about having a big ambition and a grateful condition and a savage persistence to dance with the resistance between the life they're living and the unlived life within them. And so when you think about that, almost on this like big ambition, but also grateful condition. Grateful condition is an absolutely great antidote to stress and anxiety in any area of your life, but also about money because like oftentimes we keep thinking about all the stuff we want. And again, I've got a big list of things that I would love to hope for and achieve. But also, it's really valuable. Like when Jamie and I do our monthly budget financial meeting, where we kind of go through, hey, how was last month? Where did we land? What's happening with all the stuff? What's kind of the state of union of the organization? And we certainly compare that with what we were reaching for. But then, no matter what, at the same time, we count our blessings. We say, hey, let's look at all the great things that are going on here and where we are. And if you'd have gone back and told that 10-year younger version of you that these things would happen, would you be happy? And so all of a sudden, it creates the additive needed. I think it's two fuels: the big ambition of the desires you have and you want to, and that's healthy. But it's not healthy if you ignore also what you got and the things that have happened that you count your blessings for. So process wise, I just think you've got to schedule this. It's just like anything else. Good intentions do not lead you to intentions don't lead you to a destination. Direction is what leads you to a destination, and the destinations never stop along the journey of life because there's always another one. And so as you've got to take the time to do what we really do in the process with our clients is we find out, hey, let's talk about where you are from family standpoint, financial standpoint, physical standpoint, relational standpoint, spiritual standpoint, and then what is the unlived life within you that you really want to go towards next? Like what is exciting to you about there? And then we can back down into, okay, what right now would be the most relevant areas of planning, things we can actually do about that? Because it's so funny when you think about the like just financial health if you exclude those conversations. Because if you let's say that you, Justin, you have three kids, three girls, and you have a boy on the way. And because Justin does not own a television set, so he has nothing else to do with his time. But that here and there,
Still a good use of time.
yeah, still get his time. And you there's a mindset. Let's say because more was the goal for you. If that was what you believed financial health was, maybe you inherited it because of an upbringing or whatever it was. And so your primary focus and intent, absent of the other areas of your life, was I just need more. Well, you could take everything you made, you could and you could shove it all away, invest it and focus only on that, and never create any experiences with your family, traditions with your family that costs some money. And it doesn't mean you have to spend a bunch of money, but it means, some of those vacations or even just spending money on activities with the kids or outings and things that are memories for them. You could do all that but you wouldn't, you wouldn't be like in health. You would have a lot of money, but you wouldn't be happy, and your kids wouldn't be happy. Relationally, you would be suffering. And wealth's just a tool. Wealth is all those areas, right? It's all those areas that we care about. There's a great book out right now called The Five Types of Wealth, and it really talks about that. Like just focusing on one will bankrupt you in the others. And so being holistic really involves understanding the story our clients are in. And again, you don't have to be a psychologist to do this. I'm not saying they need to lay on a couch in your office or on the Zoom. I'm just saying you should be going places with your discussions that are meaningful outside of just the nuts and bolts and the numbers. And you shouldn't just talk about accumulate, 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 and then one day get to the place where you can enjoy your life. You should say, what's a rich life look like right now? Because your money will play a role in that. And if your money's only job is to accumulate and not also add to the quality of the life that you're living, it your money's that's a bad employee. That's what that is. That money's not working well for you. Um, and you're the boss. So maybe you're a bad boss of your money right now, and you're not taking the time to really think about what do I want? What do I want? Not just, yeah, of course everybody wants to be able to, have enough passive income to where work is optional. But what else do I want?
Mm.
That also is maybe a competing goal to just accumulate, but it would help me live a rich life on my way to where I'm going, and that's a part of it, but it's just one part. So I think being complete, having a process where you're helping first understand where the client is relative to where we want to go. Then you're talking about, okay, what areas of plan are going to be most critical in light of all these things, both the just accumulation stuff, but the, hey, let's think abundance. Like if your money could play a lot of roles for you, what role would it play? Like, and Justin, I'm curious, um, as you this particular season of your life, if you could say what job do I want my money to have over the next, like, let's just say 6 months of life, what kind of answer do you think you'd give to that question?
That's a good one. I'm gonna steal the first person I've heard talk about it this way was actually Daniel from our team. So shout out to Daniel if you're listening. The talks about when we talk about with clients about the deposits into the memory bank as being as important sometimes as the family bank itself.
Awesome.
And so I think that if you're talking about the next 6 months, especially with a baby due in 2 months, lots of transition and change on the family dynamics, and not a lot of sleep planned in my near future, as I would imagine. It's one's 5, one's about to be 3, and then one on the way. So all pretty young. With my oldest in college, that's the easiest one in some regards, and then hardest in others.
Yeah.
But that's a big component of it. Like, of course, we want to accumulate, and there's a future and plans that we'd like to get to and go and arrive at, if you will, not as a destination, but a way of living life. That's just part of our routine and the rich life that we want to live. But we also recognize that there's just some things that we need to sow into that
Yeah.
are going to have an exponential return, maybe not on the financial balance sheet, but in our lifestyle and health and in so many other ways, and that's impactful.
Yeah.
Which is tough, especially as a financial advisor, right? Like, how do I balance that with
Yeah.
clients? But it goes back to using this analogy from a physical health standpoint. Crash diets don't work.
Yeah.
You can get excited and throw a lot of energy. I'm just going to grind it out and head down. But at the end of it, you're not healthier. And I've yet to see people stick with it. Like I said,
Yeah.
where that didn't make things worse, not better ultimately.
Yeah, well, and just understanding that there are things more important than just the accumulation of money, which is where the raw definition goes of, like, if I just had more, then I'd be fine. And I'm not saying don't get more, but I'm saying as if it is that it is a detached, not integrated objective with the rest of the stuff you care about, that you feed things. I mean, giving money away makes no sense financially if your goal is to accumulate, but it's proven over and over again that the greatest, happiest people in the world are people that give money away, and they give money away before they've reached their number. And there's all kinds. We've done whole series on this stuff. But I think even the most, like, the person that's listening and kind of pushing back against that, I understand. But there was we were at a conference and earlier in the year, and the speaker had this great question. He said, "How many of you would like to trade bank accounts with Warren Buffett?" And he's like, it's not a trick question. Of course, every hand goes up, right? Who wouldn't, you know?
Of course.
And then he said, now, how many of you would trade places, bank accounts with Warren Buffett if you also had to trade ages with Warren? And like a couple hands still went up, but they're like, it'd be a fun couple years or whatever it might be, right? But think about it, because Warren's like what, 96, 98, something like that, and because there are some things that matter more than money. But listen, money, when you need it, you really need it. So it's not. Don't be ignorant of it. I mean, stewardship is a timeless principle that we need to make stuff better. So it's not like you just abandon that to go, no, we're going to take we're going to Disney World. We have no money. We're just going to put it on credit cards. And we're going to, well, why not just take a different trip? Or go to do something at the park that's free. There's ways you can create memories, but also when you do these things simultaneously. So it's just, I think, holistic advice and guidance, which is holistic's been abused and it's a very, utilized word, but is truly integrating it, not just into the traditional financial, but as it relates to these other big 5 areas of a person's life. So I think advisors, it's no different. I mean, if there's one like quarterly thing I could give anybody to do, it's what we do through by design on the calendar through Strategic Coach. It's what we teach and transform is every quarter taking the time to go, okay, over the next 90 or the next 3 years, what do I want life to look like if I'm living a rich life? And you think about it in all those big 5 areas, the relational, financial, physical, professional, and spiritual. If I'm going through a year in the life of me, what kind of trips are we taking? What kind of clients do we have? What kind of money are we making? What kind of relationships do we have out there? What physical health am I in? And going through like a day in the life of you, a week in the life of you, and then and defining your big ambition, your rich life. This is what I believe this is and could be. And then saying, okay, so if that's true, then what about over the next year would that look like if I reverse engineered it down? And then over the next 90 days, what would be a good milestone? And then what am I actually going to do about it? What that I alone control, that I alone do that would over the next 90 days get me to that thing that's out there? And I think that because simultaneously with that, that's the big ambition side. But then you go to the grateful condition side as well. In fact, starting here is probably the better alternative. Just to say, hey, decade in the past, what are some of the greatest experiences I've had? The things I look back on, I enjoy, I'm super proud of. I just they're on my highlight reel in all these areas of life. And then okay, then 10 years from now, what would be great experiences for me to have out there? And then backing that stuff into that 3-year time frame. And I think what it does, it gives you a lot of gratitude and joy over where you are. And it also gives you confidence to think, man, look at what we accomplished in 10 years. So what could we do 10 years from now? And then backing that down in a time frame that's more immediate, which eventually I think is always one of the most critical things.
That's awesome. I think that's a great landing place. And my last question is going to be, if somebody's starting their financial fitness journey, what does day one look like? And it sounds like, and what we try to teach not only to clients, but to advisors is starting with that point of just like you show up in the gym and a trainer asks you, what are your goals? And they're going to start, well, ultimately, when did you feel the healthiest? What was the things that you were most excited about and had energy around when you were able to do it and be successful at whatever that was? And then looking forward, defining what does that future version of you look like, and then whittling it down to what do I need to focus on right now to at least move me in that direction.
Yeah.
Because as you start moving down there, things may change, but at least you're
Of course.
moving in the direction and making positive steps forward.
Yeah, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, in his new book, Scaling, one of the things he says is our present experience is filtered by the goals that we have for our future. And if you are not thinking in terms of your whole life, your goals are going to be a filter that leads you to an incomplete future that's going to have some area of your life suffering. And so we're not saying don't accumulate more money. We're not saying don't have an aspiration for that. Just understand that in and of itself is not going to lead you to financial health, because your financial health will suffer if you're sick in every other area and aspect of your life, and you won't have peace. That's part of that.
It's awesome. Well, we really hope you all enjoyed our episode today. If something resonated with you, we encourage you to go check out the resources available at wesyounglive.com. You can find a link in the show notes. And until next time, thank you for listening.